Right up there with having a normal body clock and remembering the correct spelling of the word rhythm. I mean, really, look at this, what the hell? Eliciting sympathy in an audience is one of the biggest challenges facing any writer. Excitement, laughter, fear, they're all an absolute piece of piss in my opinion, but tragedy requires in-depth characters, relatable motivations, and an entire world indifferent to the desires of your hero. As the video game industry continues to grow, so too does the quality of writing behind our favourite games. Meaning, as we invest hours of time into bonding with our on-screen companions, their ultimate hopes become our own, and thus, when they're horribly crushed, we really feel it. Besides, according to one of the many conditions of my community service order, I'm not legally allowed to talk about happy endings on the internet anymore, so this is as close as we're ever gonna get. My name is Adam Cleary, and these are the 10 saddest endings in video game history. Number 10, Nier. The game sees its titular hero battle monsters known as Shades as he seeks to be reunited with his daughter, curing her of her mystery illness in the process. When Emil, his close companion, sacrifices himself to aid this quest, the ending is ultimately cheerful as father and daughter reunite. But play the game a second time and Emil will actually survive this sacrifice, which is even better, right guys? Well, no, actually, because playing the game a third time and the player finds his other companion dying in agony, then presenting you with the delicious little choice of killing him or sacrificing yourself instead. The catch? Sacrificing your hero truly means sacrificing the character you have grown attached to over 3 iterations of the game. All memory of them is wiped from the game's other characters, and to make this even more real, Square Enix throw a fourth wall break by erasing all save data from the console. Oh, that's okay, you say. Being an idiot, I'll start a new game and relive the joys of the first playthrough. No, actually you won't, because starting another game forces you to rename all of the characters, meaning Emil was gone for good. Number 9, Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. With their mother already drowned at sea, Naya and younger brother Nai set out to find the Tree of Life to save their sick father. Hashtag relatable. The bond between them is made all the stronger by the unique mechanic where the player controls each brother with a designated analog stick. One literally cannot progress without the other, solidifying their bond. So it is all the sadder when the girl they rescue turns out to be an enormous grotesque spider. I mean, absolutely fuck that. And despite the brothers defeating her, Naya is mortally wounded, proving once again that all spiders are indeed bastards. They then set out to save his life, but it is too late and he succumbs to his wounds. It's sad in its own right, but spending most of the game wrapped up in the idea that they are two halves of a whole makes their ultimate separation all the harder to bear. Number 8, Red Dead Redemption. Now, yes, admittedly, there are some arguments to be made that Red Dead 2 could be in this list, but, and as I keep saying to everybody, it's so massive that I don't know when everyone's going to finish it, and that feels like major spoiler country. Still though, Red Dead Redemption 1 is arguably still a stronger contender in the old sad ending stake. But maybe not for the reason you're thinking. Yes, you do battle and murder your old gangmates, and yes, your adventure does take you across borders to question John's entire way of life, and yes, Edgar Ross, the snake bastard, does then arrive to murder you and your family, just as you finally finish doing his bidding, but it's not that bit that's sad. Don't get me wrong, the sight of John lying there after everything you've accomplished is absolutely harrowing, but this was ultimately the life he chose. It's the same fate you've personally inflicted on Bill, Javier, and Dutch, so, you know, it sort of fits. The sadness, however, comes in the game's epilogue. John's whole motivation behind this was to spare his son from the lawless outlaw life that ultimately killed his father. Playing the game as Jack, where job 1 is literally to murder Ross, means that it was all for nothing. Number 7, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII. So yes, anyone who has played Final Fantasy VII knew this was coming, but if anything, it made the ending all the sadder. Having escaped the clutches of Shinra and Hojo's genetic experiments, Zack tries to escape with a catatonic cloud to Midgar. As the pair approach the city barrier, their transport is descended upon by a huge number of soldiers. Watching Zack fight bravely against waves and waves of enemy soldiers as he tries desperately to defend the lives of both Cloud and himself is all the more tragic because we know these efforts are in vain. Despite the numbers he kills, Zack is eventually fatally wounded. As he lays there dying, he passes his Buster Sword to a confused Cloud, who is only now slowly coming round. What makes the ending all the sadder is knowing how quickly Cloud forgets him, how readily he assumes Zack's identity, and the effort it takes in Final Fantasy VII to learn the truth behind both their stories. Number 6, Life is Strange. Now, the actual finale to Life is Strange occasionally gets knocked for being a little bit predictable and cheesy, but the finale to episode 4 is, and I mean this, one of the most profoundly affecting moments in gaming. Okay, so in the previous 3 episodes, the game directed us squarely at a number of very bad people who are all responsible for the assorted very bad things in Arcadia Bay. They were almost definitely to blame for Kate's suicide, and they were almost definitely to blame for Rachel's disappearance. Just as Max and Chloe are finally about to get to the bottom of things, though, this happens. One of you is drugged, the other almost definitely dead, and as the culprit finally comes into shot, it's Mr. Jefferson? Going back on the game, all the evidence actually points to him, but when asked to point fingers, virtually no players ever suspected him. This is a tragedy, a shocking unfair tragedy that turned the whole game upside down. Number 5, Shadow of the Colossus. Sword in hand, Shadow of the Colossus sees you travel the vast plain, killing each of the 16 Colossi in the hope that the mysterious Dorman can revive his maiden. Yet, as each Colossus falls, your hair grows darker and skin becomes more pale. The similarities between this and my dissertation are startling. By the time you slay the final Colossus, Wanda is too late to realise he has been tricked by Dorman, and by killing the Colossi, he has actually fully restored the demon's power. Whoops! Before he can react, his body is possessed by Dorman, forcing horns to sprout from his forehead. Now, look, what happens next is very messy and confusing, and does admittedly leave a bit of hope for a happy ending, but you've got something of an awkward new perspective. The Colossi that you've spent hours of your life murdering were actually good, pure protectors, while you, in fact, were a dick. Number 4, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. I mean, the final battle in MGS3 is sad enough, with Snake forced to kill his former friend and future namesake, the boss. In classic Kojima style, though, her death reveals the actual truth that she never betrayed her country. She was actually sent to recover a massive war fund originally set up by the philosophers. Yet, once Volgin fired the nuke, she knew she had to sacrifice her reputation in order to prevent World War III. As Snake inherits the title of Big Boss, he becomes disgusted with how the USA betrays its greatest hero, and as he stands over the boss's grave and salutes, we see the seeds being sown for the Militaire Sans Frontières. The boss's sacrifice for peace leads to Zero and Big Boss forming the Patriots, which in time obviously become corrupted. Zero creates the AI systems that control the world and fund the war economy, while Big Boss becomes too enraptured in his ideal of freeing soldiers from government abuse, eventually forming terrorist nation Outer Heaven. All in all, not the legacy she was hoping for. Number 3, The Walking Dead Season 1. Meet Lee, the pseudo father figure to Clementine, who in Season 1 proves to be both a leader and a voice of wisdom for all the fellow survivors. More importantly though, he is Clem's protector. This makes it all the more heartbreaking when Lee gets bitten. From this moment, we know it is the beginning of the end for him, but we have to soldier on and find the now missing Clementine. After finally tracking her down and learning that some of our earlier actions had further reaching consequences than we had hoped, the ever-weakening Lee finally gets her to safety. As he collapses, clinging to life and barely able to keep his eyes open, he remains the strong guardian to Clem he promised he would be, offering the tearful girl reassurances that she is ready and capable to survive without him. As we finally take control of her for the first time, our brutal first decision is whether or not we kill the man that protected us throughout the entire game, or leave him to become a walker. No, you're crying. Number 2, To the Moon. Johnny, an old man, lays unconscious and dying in his home. As part of his last will and testament, he has paid for a corporation to come to his deathbed and, in his final moments, implant memories to allow him to believe he fulfilled his lifelong wish of traveling to the moon. Unfortunately, no one knows why Johnny held this specific wish, and the doctors must work their way back through Johnny's memories until they can uncover the source of it all. After piecing Johnny's forgotten memories together and fulfilling their promise to create a specific memory where Johnny and childhood sweetheart River fly to the moon, the ending is actually one of tragedy, unfulfilled love, and forgotten romance. Whatever his final memories though, the corporation is unable to change the lives Johnny and River actually lived, which... just go play it. Number 1, Final Fantasy X. Halfway through a game of lovable characters and blooming relationships, hero Tidus finds out the unexpected. He's not real. Instead, and I mean we've all been here at some point, he and his city were the physical manifestation of a collective imagination by the population of somewhere entirely different. Ever the hero though, Tidus battles on, determined to save Spira from his father turned sea monster Sin and his puppeteer, the summoner Yu Yevon. By defeating not only Sin but Yu Yevon as well, the team end the cycle of destruction, but in doing so, the sleeping Faith can finally rest. As they pass over to the far plane, the team watch as other characters dependent on the Faith also cross over. If you've not played it yet, I will grant you that makes precisely zero sense. The Aeons, Auron, and finally Tidus are no longer meant for this world. With emotional glances and a ghostly hug, Tidus passes through Yuna as he leaps into the far plane, high-fiving his father as he gets there. Everyone seems to be happy, but in actual fact, they've all just basically sort of died forever, which is a bummer.